What's up, guys? Happy Monday. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea. Look, we're going to get right into it, obviously. We got a lot to cover, obviously. Obviously, big baseball day covering up from a busy weekend, excuse me. Obviously, we got NBA playoffs right around the corner. Obviously, we're going to have some best bets coming up tomorrow, tomorrow and Wednesday, obviously, for the play-ins. And then looking forward to those series, potentially first round matchups, maybe sprinkling some favorites. Those are going to be later in the week. Today, obviously, it's only a baseball day and some hockey, but obviously we like to focus on baseball over here. So I got 3 plays for you. First, we're going to go to Philly. We're going to take the Rockies and Phillies first 5 over 4.5. That's minus 130 right now on DraftKings. Look, I've been seeing a lot of both on team. I've been seeing a lot of cappers on both sides, all over Twitter or whatnot. And my gut instinct is to take this first 5 over. I'm just backing runs in this point. The matchup is Cal Quantrill going on the road, and this whole Rockies team right now on the road really tends to struggle in terms of their pitching and their bullpen. And when we look at the Phillies, the Phillies have been an interesting team. They have Aaron Nola, and you seem that the Phillies may seem like be more of a lock, but I don't think the Phillies, really get out of this, cleanly. I think the Rockies, with their offensive bats, they've been really doing, a lot recently. We did see them in Toronto. They had some offensive prowess, on the road. So their bats are the ones that are carrying them on the road. And I'm just going to back the bats here. I'm backing, the bats of the Colorado Rockies to really make this thing interesting through the first 5. I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored primarily through the first 5. If not, then obviously the Rockies bullpen and the Phillies bullpen will obviously play evidence. So I do like the whole game over as well. But I do like the first 5 over. I think these two offenses kind of strike early. We look at the Rockies, they don't have the greatest splits right now in terms of against Aaron Nola, but on the road, their offense has been a lot better. And then, Cal Quantrill has struggled on the road. And against this Phillies lineup that loves to hit righties as well, guys like Bryson Stott, Kyle Schwarber have great stats against Cal Quantrill on the road in terms of their past history and their splits. So I'm just going to take this first 5 over 4.5. I think that's a safer play here. I do lean the full game over, but I think that's around 8 or 9 or 8.5 to 9. And I didn't really like where that number was. That is a lot of runs what I'm thinking, in terms of, how both of these teams play. But at the same time, I do like that total there, but I do just want to target the first 5 here. I'm just targeting, this has kind of been, similar to, first half plays that we talked about during the college basketball and NBA season, just kind of getting in and get out, throughout the first 5 innings. Don't have to worry about the bullpens or whatnot. So I'm just going to take, Rockies and Phillies first 5 over 4.5. I'm taking, both teams to kind of strike early. Both bullpens are kind of rocky, and I do expect them to be kind of rocky as well today. But at the same part, I think it's more prevalent on Aaron Nola and Cal Quantrill, the 2 starters today. I think they get rocked early. So I'm going to take the Rockies and Phillies first 5 over 4.5. And then we're going to go to Miami, and I'm taking the Giants straight up on the money line. I did like them through the first 5 when they were facing A.J. Puck, but then news came out earlier that he is scratched, and then they brought in Edward Cabrera. So I switched that from the first 5 to the full game, and I see that juice minus 115, and I love it there. We talk about the Miami Marlins, and they are a complete mess right now. They just lost Jake Berger, their only strong guy against lefties, and that's a huge loss for this Miami Marlins team. And they have to face Edward and the real question is, why am I backing the Giants? Because they're obviously they have Kyle Henderson starting on the mound, and he's a decent starter. He does surrender the home run ball, and that's kind of his one caveat. But at the same time, I am backing more of this Giants offense, against the Miami Marlins team that, obviously they're bringing in Edward Cabrera, who was supposed to, I believe, make his rehab start in a couple of days, but now obviously bringing him right back in. So maybe a little bit rushed. That kind of is more incentive for for the Giants full game money line today. I'm just taking this team in this better spot. We're talking about, just holistically, when you look at these two teams in different directions, the Giants obviously want to be contenders, and the Miami Marlins right now are a complete shell of themselves as they were last year. I'm taking the better team at a better price here at about minus 115. So I'm taking the Giants today. I expect Kyle Harrison to have a decent day, and I expect this Giants team to really, bring it to Edward Cabrera, who is making his first pretty much start from his IL stint. So I'm taking the Giants today. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up with the Braves and Astros. Two teams that everyone loves to talk about. We're going to take them first 5 over 5.5 today. It's about minus 120 here. And this is kind of a similar play to the Rockies and Phillies, except when we look at the starters, it's a bunch of who's. We have a bunch of who's, and who is that name exactly? Those are the two starters today for the Braves and Astros. I can't even remember them off the top of my brain, but I know one of them has a 21 ERA. That means he got rocked in his first game, and I expect him to get rocked against the Braves. And I believe this is the Astros starter, and I expect him to get rocked against the Braves lineup. Obviously, we talked about how stacked the Braves are in terms of 1 through 9. One of the more holistic lineups, in terms of producing, runs and quality at bats, starting with Acuna, Albies, and all those guys. And then we've seen how offensively the Astros are starting to find themselves now after that Texas Rangers series. Their offense didn't really get things going, but then slowly they kind of got themselves going. They put up, multiple runs, throughout the latter halves of the inning, but I expect them to really attack early in this game, at home against the Braves today. I know, obviously, I'm targeting the first 5 specifically because of the fact that both teams have pretty significantly good bullpens from holistically, as we talked about historically for the Braves and Astros, two teams that have always, obviously this was a World Series matchup just a few years ago. And, we talked about how both teams have pretty good, decent bullpens, throughout their time. So I'm just going to take the Braves and Astros first 5 over 5.5 here. I'm taking the simple play here. I think this is going to be, the better play, just taking the team through the first half. I think this is the better system here. Just taking, a very high scoring game. We know this is going to be a high scoring game. I think the line is already set at like 10 or 10.5. I don't like that full game over because that means you're depending on runs throughout the back half in terms of like innings 5 through 9. And I don't know if those come in, against those two good bullpens. So I'm just going to target the first half. I know I usually don't take it at 5.5, but when I see, a really good pitching matchup against two really, really prolific offenses, in terms of producing runs, I think that's a great look there. So I love that first half. It's a little bit, if it does go up to, I know that price is a little bit close, but if it does go down to 4.5, I still love it there as well. But I do love it at 5.5 for a little bit extra juice as well at minus 120. So those are my 3 picks today. We're taking the Rockies Phillies first 5 over 4.5. I do like the full game over as well, but I'm just targeting the first 5. Like I said, targeting the starting pitchers. We're targeting the Giants money line today, obviously taking the better team on a better price. And then the Braves and Astros first 5 over 5.5. Two pitchers that I don't even know who their names are still against two of the best lineups in terms of each league. The American League, the Astros have one of the best 1 through 4s in baseball. And then the Braves, obviously, we talk about guys like Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, and all more, Matt Olson as well. So I like this first 5 over 5.5. I'm expecting both lineups to kind of pounce early against two weaker pitchers, and I expect the bullpens to kind of flourish through the back half of the innings 5 through 9. So those are my 3 picks today. Ari, what have you cooked up for this Monday?
Yeah, I've got 2 plays. Start off with the one that's similar, not similar, the same tiers, Giants money line. You mentioned Edward Cabrera is making his season debut. He's supposed to make a rehab start, but then A.J. Puck got scratched, so now he's making his first start of the season, not in AAA, but in the majors. I think he's probably going to be on the pitch count. Marlins bullpen's terrible, so that's mainly the reason why I'm taking the Giants here. You mentioned Berger getting hurt. That doesn't help the Marlins lineup that's already, one of the worst in MLB are already with him. Harrison's gone off to a bit of a rocky start this year, up and down. So I think he had one good start, one rocky start against the Dodgers, but now it's the Marlins without Jake Berger. So pretty much, I like the Giants. I like Harrison in the Giants lineup as well, but it's also, I would say it's mostly a bet, fading Cabrera in his debut this season, potential short stint, and then you get to the bullpen, maybe 5th, 6th inning, and you have, 4 or 5 innings against their bullpen, the Marlins. So I like the Giants at this price here against them, and then going to the Brewers against the Padres. And I know in the past, I'm not like a huge trends guy, but I know, fading Sunday Night Baseball on the Mondays was kind of profitable, I believe, last year. Padres coming off a win over the Dodgers last night on Sunday Night Baseball. Joe Musgrove's gone off to a pretty, tough start to the season as well. This is his first kind of true road start this year because he started off in South Korea, which is obviously, it's a road start, I guess you could say, but it's kind of a different situation. But then his next three starts came at home, and so now this is his first start, in the USA on the road, in the US on the road. Then you have Joe Ross, I believe, for the Brewers, who's gotten off to a good start this year through his first couple of starts. So I'm sticking the Brewers here at home against the Padres, coming off late night Sunday night baseball for whatever that's worth. Brewers backing Joe Ross in their lineup. It's actually been relatively good. Obviously the expectations were low for the Brewers heading into the season after they traded Corbin Burns, but they've kind of been relatively steady so far this year. Obviously, still very early, but honestly, I'm backing the Brewers at home in this game. So backing the Giants in Miami against Everett Cabrera making his debut of the season, and the Brewers over the Padres as well.
I mean, we already talked about the Giants. I already am on the same reasons for you as the Giants, in terms of backing them as well. You mentioned Edward Cabrera, the bullpen for the Miami Marlins, pretty banged up as well, considering they were just, dealing with the Braves as well at home. So, it's not like the bullpen is well rested as well for the Miami Marlins. So that's more incentive for the Giants. And I actually was looking at the Brewers as well today. So glad that I think we both have that same pick as well. So hopefully those two cash for you as well for me. I am also on the Brewers as well. I thought that was a great play. You mentioned, fading teams that went on Sunday night who have to travel. That's a really profitable system, or just any system where Sunday night baseball, teams have to travel the next day and play a road game. And this is a pretty great spot for you. You mentioned, the Padres, even though they have the better pitcher in Joe Musgrove, the Brewers have been a surprisingly hot team, off to a great start offensively, which has been one of the true, kind of one thing that's been the one thing that's kind of been pulling the Brewers back is their offense. But we have guys like William Contreras stepping up and Christian Yelich hitting the ball well, and I think that kind of plays evident. The Brewers are actually pretty good at home in terms of hitting the ball, so I think this kind of more incentivizes the Brewers money line as well at home. So I do like those picks for you. Those two, Giants and Brewers, just on the money line, taking those straight at home, and then my three picks today. The Rockies and Phillies first five over 4.5. Giants as well in the money line, as already mentioned earlier. And then the Braves and Astros going through the first five over 5.5. Total runs at -120. You can find all of these plays down below on our Twitter, AKP Sports Luck. We will have our full card and this video obviously posted momentarily. But that's going to do it for this episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea. As I mentioned earlier, the NBA playoffs are literally right around the corner. So we're going to have our best bets for the play-ins. Obviously, tomorrow we have the West between the Lakers and Pelicans in New Orleans, and then the Kings and Warriors in Sacramento. We will have our best bets for those tomorrow, as well as some more baseball. But that's going to do it for this episode. That's Ari. I'm Korea. We will see you guys tomorrow.